Make way for another Spider-Man. Here's your look at the Diamond Select Gamerverse, the Spider-Man Miles Morales PVC Diorama statue. A teenager living dual lives as a fledgling Spider-Man and a Brooklyn Visions Academy student, Miles Morales learns that with great power comes great responsibility. Forging his own path, he discovers explosive new powers, including unique bioelectric venom, blast attacks, and covert camouflage power, alongside his spectacular web-slinging acrobatics, gadgets, and skills. This gallery diorama of Miles Morales is based on his appearance in the video game Spider-Man Miles Morales. It is made of high-quality PVC and features detailed sculpting and paint applications. More on Miles in a moment. First, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that did in fact make this review possible by sending over the new PVC diorama statue of Miles Morales, that we can have a look at in this video. Following that, let's go ahead and grab the tape measure just to see how tall this statue is. He's going to be a little bit shorter than perhaps the last Spider-Man that we had a look at here on this channel. If you haven't had yet the chance to check out that other Spider-Man statue, go give it a go. Maybe just after watching this video, after all. Going ahead, though, and grabbing the tape measure, it's going to be a little harder to get as close to the top of his head, simply just because he's got this base in the way of things. But the figure stands at about, or statue stands, at about 5 3/4 of an inch tall. And that works out to be a statue that's roughly about 14 centimeters tall. Picking now the statue up so you guys can get a closer look, one thing I really like right away is the fact that they did embed this Spider-Man logo. It's a little harder to see because he's got the flames and, of course, his body on top of it. But if you look to the side, you can sort of see the side legs of a carved-in spider. I really like the way that that was done. It's also got more of a metallic sheen to it. As you can see, the light is hitting it. It's not quite the same red as you'll see for his body when we look at that in a moment. I do appreciate the fact that they did that, because I mean, like, just to look at it alone, it's just a circular black display stand, and adding that little touch of detail of the spider emblem really brings a lot more attention to the display base than it just being a simple display base on its own. Granted, though, the underside of the display base is not much to look at. It's, in this case, actually just a hollow cavity. PVC statues, gallery statues, and I don't know why I'm tapping it like this, tend to be more hollow on the underside. More of all the work, all the interesting stuff to look at is, of course, on the top of the display stand. As you can see, that Miles is also standing on top of these flame effects. This has been accomplished by using a translucent yellowish, possibly borderlining an orange color. And again, being that's translucent, if you really did have yourself a nice light source on your shelf, you probably could even illuminate behind it and have these flames glow. I think that would be rather nice. These flames, or at least the colors, carry over also to the one that he has in his hand. And the nice touch that they did was actually having the fingers sort of swooping through the fiery flames. As you can see, the fingers sticking out the ends there. I think that's really a fun touch. Just enough that you can actually still make out his palm, as it's slightly darker on the inside. And then gets progressively, not lighter in color, but more sort of fiery red. Starts more of a lighter yellow, gets more to a warmer orange, before finally wrapping things up in almost more of a warm orange or almost red. I love the fact that they did actually do that. And when it comes to certainly Spider-Man's pose, Miles Morales is sort of more in a crouched position, almost as if he's probably leaping in the sky. It's a little harder to replicate this, of course, because he's so close to the display stand the way he is. But just the way that they've got him actually posed, it looks like he is leaping. Although it doesn't really look like he's leaving the ground much. Head sculpt-wise is actually really good on this one. It does have very much kind of like the Tobey Maguire kind of costuming, where if you look at it really close, you can make out it almost has, I would describe it in the past, I probably would continue to describe it as sort of a basketball texturing. And he has that all across his head. He actually has it also in his shoulder area too, but it doesn't seem to be standing out as much as it does in the head. And of course, it does have the carved-in webbings there. The web seems quite nicely painted. It doesn't seem any real paint problems that at least I've noticed here on mine. Spinning this around so you can see it from all of the back as well. Again, you've got the different emblem here on the back of Miles's body. And he also has an emblem here on the front, though the emblem sort of then makes its way then onto the shoulders, as it's a continuation of the same crimson red. Again, the use of the metallic red is the thing I like the most about this statue. well, sort of more matte finished here in the red. It gets definitely the opportunity to be a little bit more shinier and prestige down below here in the torso. And again, that red finds its way also extending out to his arms, also into the gauntlet areas around his wrists, and also onto the ends of his fingers as well. Where there are places that aren't painted, for example, like the rest of his body, of course, being all black, still gives an opportunity on Dahm's part to sculpt in some really nice additional, not panel lining necessarily, but sculpted lines, carved also in there into the plastic also as well. He does also have some additional red too, maybe a little harder to make out here. He's got some on the side of his leg. That's probably the easier of the places to find. A harder place to find is the undersoles of his feet. Those also get afforded that additional crimson red. One thing I do really like is what I like about the statue is the pose. I do like the way that he's got some energy and some flow going for him. The downside, though, unfortunately, is being that he's so close to the display base like this, it actually looks more like he's kind of skidding along the ground. Being the fact that they've also incorporated the flames is one way that they've given the opportunity for Miles to sort of be a little levitated off the display stand. But I wonder how good this figure or statue could have looked if they had perhaps put a post, just picking the statue up right now, if they had maybe put a post right down under here, connecting maybe the flames to the under torso of his body, and actually, in fact, lifting Miles just a little higher than what he's got right now. I mean, I love the pose. I just wonder if perhaps it's maybe just a little too close to the display base. Still, though, I like the way they've handled the display base by cutting in that sculpting of the spider emblem from Miles's suit. I like the color, again, that they've used for the crimson there in his torso, the front of his emblem, the back of his emblem, and the head sculpt is nicely painted in as well. Adding the additional flame effects, which they did down below here and off to the side with his hand, does it give a little more something for your eyes to focus in on, other than just Miles Morales on his own. Yeah, overall, it's a nice-looking statue. It's pretty small in size. And again, I think it works better in certain poses, or at least certain angles. I'd be inclined, I think, to probably have it displayed like this, so you can see his arms fanned out, and having looking this direction. If you have him posed this way, I don't think it gets as much the point across, and I think the effect of having the sculpt the way it's posed, you get some of that a little bit more lost. I'd be definitely more inclined, I think, to display him this way. Nice looking statue. Just again, wonder if it would have looked a little bit better to lift him up just a little bit. Maybe instead of actually using a clear post to raise Miles off the display stand, maybe they could have actually taken some of the flames and brought the flames further up and maybe made a solidified base, a more sturdier base, and have Miles just a little higher than what he actually is right now. Other than that, though, it's a really nice looking statue. Miles Morales has one of the better looking Spider-Man suits as of late, and it translates really well here with the Gamerverse Spider-Man Miles Morales PVC statue from the folks over at Diamond Select. The crimson red that Diamond Select did paint onto this statue is really the parts on Miles Morales that shine the most, for obvious reasons. The parts below that, though, still void of color, at least it gave Diamond an opportunity to not just leave it as barren, vacant plastic, but no, in fact, actually go in there and sculpt some panel lining. So there is still something to look at Miles Morales, even the places that aren't necessarily colored. The metallic red does work quite well for Miles Morales. It does seem like it's a slightly lighter red, though, in the webbing of his mask and the top of his neck, but it still goes well enough with the metallic crimson that they use for the shoulder areas, the front and back emblem, and the side sleeves that go down his arms, and of course the parts in his boots as well. The thing also that I like about this statue is it's not just all a black statue. So like even the display base, for example, not even just leaving it off at just a circular display base and calling it a day, Diamond actually did carve in there a spider emblem. It's a little harder to make out, granted, because he does have the flame right above it, but it's still something other than just having a circular black display stand. They took the time and put a little extra attention to detail in there as well. And of course, attentions to detail, love the fact that they added the flame effects. First of all, it brings a lot more color to the table, because of course you're already dealing with Miles Morales wearing a black costume anyways, and then you're dealing with a black display stand. You sort of need to sandwich some color in the middle of that, and it's nice to see that they did add the flame sculpt. The flame also does allow the statue, or at least Miles Morales, to lift a little higher up from the display stand. And that's one of the reasons why they probably put that in there in the first place. I would have maybe even taken that to one next level, and maybe even had it lifting Miles a little higher than what he actually is from the display stand. Because as it goes right now, it looks like Miles is more skidding along the ground. And if the plan was really to have him swooping, firing a web, for example, or just flying through the air, I would have maybe taken the flame that right now is wrapping around his one leg, it's the front leg, in fact, that's actually holding all the weight of the statue, I would have maybe stretched that flame across further up his thigh, and maybe, in fact, lifted Miles further from the display stand by maybe another inch, maybe like an inch and a half, to really sell the idea that this guy is swinging. Still, though, it's a nice looking statue. If you are a big fan of Miles Morales, this may be one you may want to be picking up and adding to your display shelf. A big thank you, though, to the folks over at Dahmm Life that did provide the sample of the Gamerverse Miles Morales diorama statue that we can have a look at in this review. Hey now, are you new here? Are you enjoying the content that you're seeing? If you've answered yes and yes, might I recommend that if you haven't already done so, that you hit the subscribe button down below, that you turn on the bell notification, so yes, you're always going to get those reminders of whenever new videos are going to be popping up. Speaking also of popping up, at the very end of this video, a shameless plug to the playlist popping up, it will be covering off all the territory of Diamond Select stuff that I've looked at over the years. If you did have a little more time on your hands right after looking at the Miles Morales statue, and would certainly like to see the other stuff I've done for Diamond, check out that playlist. Like I said, it'll be popping up at the very end of this video. We are going to be looking at some more Diamond Select reviews, so make sure you're keeping your spider peepers peeled to this channel. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.